Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It's Matt Coleman, your Magnify World host, speaking from Los Angeles today. As you know, over the next couple of months, we've been interviewing 50 of the most interesting artists, creators, and designers in the emerging tech world, including AR and VR. And today, we have a most unusual product, I think, which is fantastic. It's been created in Portland by John Orion Young, otherwise known as Joy. How are you today, John?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
Great to have you on board, and I can't wait
Thank you
to
so much.
showcase some of your videos later in the show. But we're going to be talking today a little bit about your background and how you actually got into this, and the steps and the processes about how you're making these rarities, these digital collections in AR and VR, and then putting that up on the blockchain. Really interesting model for sure. We've seen CryptoKitties go ballistic over the last few years, and maybe that's what inspired you, I don't know. But tell us a little bit more about, we're talking about titanium bikes. How did you get into what you're doing now? But explain.
For sure, yeah. So what I'm doing now is I make characters called joys, and each joy is a virtual muse that you can own on the blockchain. And joys inhabit a world called Joy World, where everyone and everything is conspiring to make you feel joyful and creative. And when I go way back, I started out in traditional art. I've been working in traditional art for years. My father was a traditional artist who did life-size, like lost wax, bronze casting of deer and antelope and oil paintings. Years later, I worked with an artist known as Paul Budnitz, who built a company called Kid Robot. And with Paul, we built a company called Budnitz Bicycles. There's a bike company in his name, and we made the world's greatest titanium cruiser bikes. So the idea was like a $10,000 titanium bike with race-grade componentry, like the best bike to go get a cup of coffee on type thing. But yeah, I worked with Paul for quite a few years and learned a lot. And we had a lot of wild, crazy ideas. And then later on, I got into sculpting in virtual reality because I always kind of wanted to, when I was painting, I wanted to make something, I wanted to make everything with nothing kind of energy is what I had going on. So I was making lots of paintings at the time, and I really wanted to be able to just create infinitely. And I got into virtual reality because of that reason through TiltBrush, and then later on Medium by Adobe.
So it's a great story. Look, tell us about your first experience with TiltBrush, because mine was pretty amazing.
Yeah, same.
It's an incredible feeling when you can just create right around your world in VR. I mean, how it must have been so inspiring, particularly for a digital artist, to see something like that on the market.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I saw somebody sculpting like with an early Oculus prototype. They were sculpting like a giant red spider, and it was in mixed reality, and he was kind of sitting back in his chair just working, and it was filling the whole room. And I was like, I like, when you see somebody in virtual reality, it's not the same as actually going there. As you probably know, Matt, it's just like once you're there and you're having that experience, it's totally, you're engulfed in it and just feeling everything. So yeah, once I went into TiltBrush, it was just incredible. And the early version of TiltBrush, you couldn't resize the room. So I just remember I was just dancing and going crazy. At the time I was in San Francisco, I had this apartment. I just moved everything out of the way, and I just cleared the whole living room, and it was just my VR space. I was jumping and leaping, and I was trying to like paint the top of things. Because it was really, just to go from like having a painting where you're trying to convey scale to actually being able to work with scale was such a exciting leap to take that I went nuts. I was definitely like first thing in the morning into VR, sculpt for like 2 or 3 hours. I was getting up at like 5 in the morning just so I could do it before like going and working on anything else. But yeah,
That's excellent. So back in 2016, what headsets and what stores was TiltBrush available on, and now maybe just go into a little bit of detail around the mechanics and what you could do and what you can do now on TiltBrush before we get into the Adobe product.
For sure. Yeah. At the time, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos about it because I was like, I knew you had to have like a VR computer. So I built like a little ITX computer and spray painted it yellow and had like a GTX 1080 in it, which was kind of the maximum for like having good experience in there. And I had a HTC, is that first HTC? I can't remember. I think it's the HTC Vive. And then you had to have like sensors in the room. That you had to like mount to the wall, which kind of infuriated my partner and wife, Amber. She didn't like all the cables kind of coming down from the ceiling and stuff in the middle of our like small apartment. But she was like, yeah, just saw how amazing VR was also. And we both were willing to tolerate kind of the mess of VR at the time. It's definitely, now I'm using like this Oculus Rift S. And with this one, you have like the cameras inside of it, so you don't have to have sensors or anything like that. So it's become a much simpler process. And now we have even Oculus Quest, which is you don't have wires. So it's all changing. It's changing very, very rapidly. But I've always kind of felt like our responsibility as human beings is to have preferences and to exercise those preferences. And in some ways, that kind of improves our lives, and then other people see those improvements happening and they want to improve their life. So I've seen, because I'm willing to just keep trying these new VR headsets, I'm seeing lots of other artists jump in and their work is getting so awesome. And I think it just makes everyone's life a little bit better if we just keep trying these new weird things, even though they're strange and you got to keep changing as you go along.
So what sort of functionality was the big change? You mentioned something before we jumped on the call with TiltBrush.
With TiltBrush, you can now resize your space. So you can be painting like in a huge room. Say you're painting like a house, and then you can just grab it and pull it down to small size and work like this, which is actually how I work now in Medium. A lot of times I'm working in the sculpt, it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Joy Rex, and it's like this big, and then you're scaling it up and you're inside of its mouth doing like dental work. So it really changed a lot. It kind of went from a little bit more like a fun experience, which is still a really fun experience, but is more experiential, where the art tools are actually becoming very good, just creative tools, with allowing like rescaling and adding new functionality.
And tell us now, you were using what it's called Medium Adobe technology.
Yeah.
Tell us how does that fit into some of the headsets, and how do you sculpt with that? You're saying it's the best VR sculpting application on the market. Yeah,
definitely. And I would even say like it's my favorite probably like piece of software I've ever experienced. It's really incredible. It's originally Medium, and then Oculus bought it, and then they made probably the worst mistake ever by selling it to Adobe, because it's the most brilliant thing ever for Adobe to buy it, because it is an incredible piece of software. And it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like the feeling of you're sculpting like this giant sculpt, but it just feels like you're sculpting a balloon. Like you're just kind of spinning a balloon in the air, and you're sculpting, and you have infinite amount of clay. TiltBrush is a lot more like you're painting with brush strokes, and they just float in space as you paint. And Medium's a lot more like you have a volume of clay, and you can kind of manipulate that and add more clay or take stuff away. So it's really fun. I don't know what to say about that.
That's fantastic. So where do you get the Medium Adobe software?
It's available in the Rift store.
Explain to the viewers, where you get that. Sorry.
Yeah. It's free actually, and it's available on the Oculus Rift store. So it's not available for Quest. It's a very intensive, like a resource-intensive application. So it has to be done on a gaming PC. So it's part of the Rift software. But you can plug a Quest now into your PC and then access the Rift software.
Excellent. Thanks for explaining that. Sure. So let's get into some of your crypto art. But before we do that, we're going to speculate the current pricing of Bitcoin and Ethereum. You've just pulled up the prices today. What's going on?
Yeah, we're just a little bit over $400 on Ethereum, which it dropped down recently. It almost broke 500, kind of record for this year, and then it went back down. As in the middle of whenever I first had these artworks out in 2018, at one point, I remember it hitting 1,000, like 400. So I'm kind of back from those days. So I'm like, it could definitely go higher. I, for one, think it'll probably 10x. It might even switch places with the price of Bitcoin. Because for me, the added functionality of programmable money once people start to grasp that more, will make Ethereum much more valuable than Bitcoin, which is just money.
So what's the Bitcoin price today, we said?
It's like 10,700 something.
So I remember that being as high as what, 25,000?
Yeah. I think that was way back.
Was that 2 years ago?
I think so. Probably 2018 during like all the coin hype.
Yeah. And so you never thought about doing an ICO or a Bitcoin raise?
Yeah, so lots of people I've had every single thing pitched to me, from everything from building a pyramid, like hot potato, like scam type thing and getting people to give me money, to like building like an ICO, doing a coin offering, and now what's become much more popular is social money. And I'm very serious and very dedicated towards Joy World. It's my art. It's something that's very important to me. And so I've taken very slow steps and very carefully. I personally model the way I do my artwork a lot after how Apple functions. So I do think a lot about not necessarily being the first to do something, but doing it in the best way possible. That what I try and do is make sure that the joy collectors who collect joys are always rewarded in the end, that their value is always going up and they're always getting more than what they put in whenever they got into this whole thing.
Right. So why don't we go in the step-by-step process? I just wanted the viewers to hear from you how they actually go about purchasing digital art, because that's quite a unique process, but it's not unique if you're in the blockchain world, of course. But just to, the average Joe, I'll call him Joe, let's just walk through that process, because it's interesting to talk about.
Sure. Yeah, what you'll need is Ethereum, which is kind of the money that everything's traded on. And Ethereum isn't just money. What Ethereum is it's a global computer, essentially. It's a global decentralized network that has smart contracts on it, and each smart contract can kind of be programmed. So whenever you have Ether, it's kind of this like fluid ether. It's just kind of this like fluid that like kind of makes everything flow. And that's where you'll get into gas and different things like that. So essentially you need Ethereum to make it simple. You need somewhere to put that Ethereum, which is a thing called a wallet, just like you would have like a regular wallet. And once you have those two things, you can actually go and buy and collect art. That art will just show up in your wallet as you buy it. If you buy it from someone else's wallet, it will vanish out of their wallet and appear in your wallet. And what you're actually doing is no different than trading just a Bitcoin around. But the big difference is that the Bitcoin is a fungible asset, meaning it can be broken down into decimal places. And a joy is a 101. There's only one, and it can only be traded, and only one person can own it at a time.
So how many have you made?
I think we're at 115 in the past 2 years.
So you're getting up there. So can you just talk through the different crypto wallets? I know on your website you talk about Metamask and some others. What are you recommending there? Metamask is probably the most popular, right?
Yeah, I recommend Metamask. So these days it kind of shifts a lot. Metamask is the go-to kind of one to get. It's the best for like desktop, and they have a mobile app coming. And Metamask is kind of like back from the early CryptoKitties days. So that's when I first got into all this, was through CryptoKitties, and I was buying those in 2017 when that was all the rage. And
why don't you just talk about how big that was, though? That was like the Pokemon of AR for me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If I compare something in the crypto world that went crazy in the rarities market, CryptoKitties was it.
Absolutely. And their approach was very much like they knew all this stuff was available, and I had an idea that we would be able to trade crypto art in the future using Ethereum. And there's all this idea was there. And what they did really well is they approached it with really good design, really simple design made it so that I could onboard, and a lot of people could onboard onto crypto. Because as I started explaining to you, I got lost in the weeds, and it's a very confusing process when you first get into it. But what CryptoKitties did was made it so simple for everybody to get in. And it's funny, my friend Matt was the designer of that, and he said that when you're designing a product for the internet, you never have to explain if you use a cat. You only have to explain why you don't use a cat. in your product. So I thought that was pretty great explanation of CryptoKitties. So that's why, I mean, it just went, everyone loves cats on the internet. It's the most amazing thing. And I think I went in there.
What was the highest price? Wasn't there a cat that went for $26,000 or something or more?
I think so. I think even they may have broken like $100,000 at this point for some of the cats. I'm not sure. I haven't really kept on the CryptoKitty market really closely, but it was nuts at the time. I remember spending hundreds of dollars. I was just buying Ethereum. I was buying cats. I remember I was buying some of them for like $200-$300, and I wasn't really thinking like I was spending dollars. I was just going nuts. Like, I got to have these. And from there, a lot of people were building what are called crypto games. So some of them were like flipping assets and different things like that. And I ended up playing like 200 or 300 different types of games, just experimenting with all the different types of smart contracts. A lot of people were just like trying different things with the smart contracts. So one of them was called World of Goo. And in World of Goo, it was a time-based game. And you could buy like a Professor Rabbit and different like characters. And then these different characters would mint goo at a rate based on like their power. And then you would make this goo back. And then every 24 hours, you could change your goo for Ethereum. And then you could cash your Ethereum out. So people are building lots of really fun, like weird games. And they were also trading like old Picasso paintings using a contract called a hot potato. And that's where I jumped in and I was like, this is it. This is a way that people will be able to trade art like digitally on the internet in a decentralized way without an institution like trying to say like, this is good art and this is like, give me your money and I'll keep it safe for you. But in a way that we're just all out here like artists and collectors trading art it's kind of, that's the point where I jumped in and built my own contract.
So tell us about the hot potato contract.
Yeah, the hot potato contract is really interesting, a lot of fun, and a lot of Joy collectors still wish there was some similar mechanic to it. But the way the hot potato worked is I would release a new Joy would come out and be revealed, and I would sell it for 0.001 ETH. So that was essentially about $1 at the time. And then if somebody else would buy that, and the contract I built would automatically raise the price to say like $2 and relist it for sale. And that Joy collector couldn't take it out of the listing. So someone else could jump in and pay them like $3 for it. And then somebody else could jump in and pay $5 for it. And then somebody else could jump in and pay $15. And what happened is it's an auction essentially. But the crazy thing was that it wasn't like an auction where you were bidding. It was an auction where you're actually putting the money down and then somebody was paying you your money back plus extra money. So every single person profited until the last person who was like holding the Joy, until no one was willing to pay more for it. So it was an auction that actually rewarded everybody who was willing to be one of the first collectors.
Yeah. I get it. That's great.
And then like I ended up, what I did is took like 10% of every transaction, which did make some money, but it never, like I ended up going broke trying to like keep that kind of system and ideology alive. And then that's whenever a lot of people were saying, we would say funny things like people could steal your Joy. And then like somebody said, having your Joy stolen is like getting your car keyed, but getting an extra money on the insurance that pays for more than getting it repaired. So it was just we had a lot of fun, but a lot of people just really wanted to actually own the Joys and wanted to have true ownership and be able to decide when they sold it. And that's whenever I made the season 2 contract and froze the old contract. Berserk froze the old contract, and Juicy Jackalope unfroze the Joys in the new contract.
What's it called?
Joy S2. So Juicy Jackalope is the character that was the first one to come out on that contract. And so Berserk is he's like kind of like the Prince of Darkness of Joy World. He came in actually after my dog passed away and I got super depressed. I made Berserk. And Berserk is this black bat, and it's all in latex. And it froze Joy World, and that was at the time like I was ending the hot potato. And so Berserk helped me freeze Joy World until I could build a new contract. And then Juicy Jackalope came in with its dance magic and unfroze the world, and we restarted with season 2 into Joy World.
Excellent. And we're going to get into
what is our anyways, Matt? What is our anyways?
So tell everybody also about what OpenC is. It's like you're saying, it's like the eBay for rarities. But just go into, I mean, what when did they start up, and is that like the go-to place now?
Yeah, OpenC started about the same time that the first Joy World contract came out, about the same time as CryptoKitties. So the idea was that with OpenC, Devin's a friend of mine. We met in SF at the time that he was launching and I was launching. And he was going to mint all the joys for me into OpenC. And at the time I wanted the hot potato contract real bad. And Devin's like, this isn't the way, it will be. And I'm like, no, let's do this. So OpenC ended up launching, and I didn't launch joys on it for the first go around. And then for season 2, I actually minted all the joys into an OpenC contract. And OpenC is kind of, their ideas that they're like at eBay for digital items. They don't want to necessarily curate or say what should be in there. They want it to be anyone and everyone, whoever wants to sell their crypto art, blockchain project, whatever. They'll accept any types of coins if you register the coin with. So it's just it's a decentralized way for anyone to exchange any of their crypto art or any assets. So essentially, like, the idea was CryptoKitties, you could go and buy and sell CryptoKitties inside of their website. But then the idea is it's decentralized, so it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to go to CryptoKitties to buy a CryptoKitty. So OpenC came along and then listed all the CryptoKitties. I thought I closed you. And then you could like buy and sell your cats over there, and you don't have to pay Axiom a fee for your trading your cat. You're paying a smaller fee to OpenC. So OpenC takes a really tiny fee and all that kind of thing.
So what's the business model there? Is it like 5% of the transaction or less?
They're taking 2.5% of the transaction. And then you can they'll take all the way down to just 1% if you want to raise your affiliate fees. So people can get affiliate fees if they link to different stuff in OpenC also.
That's great. Thanks for explaining all of that. So
sure.
let's talk about a few of the collections. You've got the Dark Princess, you've got the Unicorn Twins, you've got the Sea of Joy, and the list goes on. But first of all, before you answer that, what inspires you, to create different collections? I mean, you've got over 100 now. Tell us more about your inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. I'm inspired by a lot of different things. I'm inspired by funny things. I used to, like, pre-COVID, I used to like to go to like Lowe's and just look at like hardware supplies and like look at materials. I really like, as far out and trippy as everything is, I really like the real world. I think that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and we're on the bleeding edge, cutting edge experience of life right now. Physical reality, this experience you and I are having right now, is the best, most exciting thing there is. So I draw all my inspiration from real life, from different people. A lot of the like early joys are definitely characters that I saw around San Francisco, and now they're a little bit more like Portland type characters, are just people I've known through the years. So it's all just, art's kind of like the people, places, and things, and that's what joys are.
So what about the colors? Your yellow seems to be a favorite of yours.
Yeah, definitely.
The smiley face.
Yeah, for sure. Yellow to me represents creative energy. And so I work with the primary colors. The primary colors represent art to me and creativity: yellow, red, and blue. To me, yellow is like the creative energy, the like sunshine, the excitement, the reason to like make something. Blue is kind of like the sweat and kind of like the energy you put into something to make something to actually become royal or something exciting, something that people actually look up to. It takes a lot of sweat. And then the red represents blood, like the life you have to put into something to actually make anybody like be excited and feel something when they look at it.
That's great. And now talk about a few of your collections, and tell us what they are, and what can the viewers go and collect.
Yeah, so the very, very first joy is me. It's original joy. It's the first joy I minted on the blockchain. It's I think it's 2018, April 24th, I think, 2018, around like 4:00 or so, I think. I minted the first joy. It's original joy, and that was me. And with me, I minted the second joy, which was Joybot. And Joybot was a hodgepodge of other like pieces of virtual reality art that I kind of built together to help me bring all the other joys into reality. And then we brought Joybot, and I made Surge. And like, or not Surge, Charged. And Charged is kind of like the creative energy of Joy World. It's a rhino. One of my biggest inspirations as a kid was Dali, Salvador Dali's work, and he painted the rhino a lot. So I've always been kind of inspired by just the horn and like the energy, like the pointing up and the upward like momentum. And then so from there, basically I kept minting different joys, and each different set kind of tells a story. There's like a Hello Kitty in there and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and these different things kind of characters pay homage to my past. So I wanted to kind of manifest myself and my history into Joy World in the beginning. And as I got further along, different stories just kind of happened with different things happening in my life. Like I mentioned Berserk earlier, with my dog passed away, and it hit me so heavy, and I just made the most kind of insanely dark kind of, like I don't know, like almost could see the joy that took him in the night or something type thing. And I tell different stories, and right now we're on the trip going through the Sea of Joy. And the Sea of Joy actually did start with, you mentioned the Unicorn Twins, and they were playing on a seesaw set, and Greg went down too hard and launched Meg up into the sky, and Greg fell through the ground and went down into the earth. And once they finally reunited, they were at the Joy World's second birthday party. And that was, it's actually in an anonymous location. We haven't discovered where that was, but I've been looking into it. And after the party ended, all that remained was the remainder. And the remainder dove into the pool, and he swam down, and he kept swimming and swimming and swimming. And that's where we discovered the Sea of Joy. And inside the Sea of Joy, we discovered lots of new characters, and like Stardrop, Stardrop is the joy that will make you famous. Stardrop's a vlogger on CTube inside of Joy World, and has like 4 billion krills following Stardrop at this point. And so Stardrop and Doug the Slug and a lot of new joys we've been discovering inside the Sea of Joy, they've all been gathering in this spot. And in the next couple of days, we're going to figure out why. And so I've been trying to figure out why have they all been gathering here. So really these stories, they just kind of evolve as the joys evolve, as I kind of manifest them. There's actually like thousands of joys inside of Medium right now that I've never released, because to me, like, joys are made in a spirit of non-attachment and non-achievement. And in that way, they are made like in the purest way possible. So there's never a rush to release a joy just to make money, or to do something, to try and achieve something or gain something, or have X amount of artworks out, or I haven't posted something for a month, I need to make something. There's never that. It's always just about how to create something in the purest way possible, and then give it away to let somebody else own it, and then see where they take it.
And how often is there some sort of release schedule you try and stick to, or is it just comes out of inspiration?
Yeah, it's out of inspiration. I think, and it's actually just joys are released as they're finished and as they're complete. There's sometimes they've come out, I've released them at like midnight. I've revealed these are the new joys, even though I know the best time would be like 9 a.m. on a Monday would probably have the most optimal reach, and I could look at all the stats, and it would probably make me millions of dollars. But to me, like, that's why I asked at one point, Matt, what's art anyways? And that's what I try and ask myself every day. Like, what is art anyways? Like, what is it anyways? And I think it's the people, places, and things, it's each artwork is an artist's creative energy. And I love the idea that people can own that energy and then trade it. And then that's why a joy is a muse, and it has a magic power that it gives you, is a lot of times that magic energy is based on the energy, the most energy I was having at the time. So if the joy can give you new friends, I may have made a new friend that day. And so I'm like, wow. And I want to like package that energy and let somebody else have that for a while, because nothing's permanent. And what is owning anything anyways really mean? It's gotta be something. It's gotta be something special for them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, good comments from you there. I really like that. So where do you think this is going? The virtual and currencies and the rarities. It's got to be getting bigger and bigger. There's a new amount of cryptocurrency games where you can collect digital art within the game, and I would imagine sports, I know, has tried some of this in the US with the NFL, where they created the limited cards and things like that, and that's the memorabilia model, I guess, right?
Yeah, NBA is doing it now also with a thing called Top Shot. I just heard the other day that one of the platforms kind of similar to OpenC is Rarible. And there's another one called Maker's Place. And there's another one called Super Rare. And I just heard that Rarible has 3,000 artists on it as of like today or yesterday. And when I started, I was the only artist. There was me. There was an artist called Robness, I think. And there was a artist named Josie. There was probably like 3 or 4 of us at the time, just 2 years ago. And now there's like 3,000 artists. And I think that's going to grow and grow. I think there'll be maybe 1 million artists, possibly sometime next year. And I think it's awesome. And I see this converging with AR and VR in a way, because there's real beauty in rarity and ownership. And there's something really beautiful about that when something's actually rare and special and somebody can have it for themselves. And in the current version of the internet, everything is for everyone and everyone can kind of just take whatever they want. But I really think virtual reality and augmented reality will become very interesting if you can actually own something that's uniquely yours, and then you can trade it with somebody else in an open and free way that doesn't involve like banks processing different things, and also doesn't matter which currency you have. So I think things like Uniswap which is this way that you can change Ethereum for any other currency in a decentralized way using other people's pool of money. I think things like that will become much more liquid, so that I'll be able to say, I'll have whale currency, and I'll be able to just buy whatever you're selling for Ethereum or dollars, and it'll just appear inside of my virtual house. I think it's all kind of converging, and we'll get there. I hope so anyways. I think it'll be an interesting future.
Fantastic. So what are you looking forward to mostly in regards to the creative industry moving forward in the next, 2 to 3 years in regards to design or hardware or smart glasses? What are your thoughts there to leave us and wrap up? And then I wanted you to share some, how do people find you online as well?
Yeah, I think as far as oh man, there's so much in that. My brain is like going so fast. I really hope, and it's definitely going to happen, that just more creative tools come out. I'm looking forward to not just sculpting in virtual reality, but actually rigging the characters' bones, skinning them, animating, doing the film work inside of virtual reality, and then also doing all of that in there and in an open way where you could come just hang out with me while I'm doing that in there. And we could just be in my studio right now and I could just show you things instead of telling you. I'm really looking forward to that all coming to be. And then I feel like we're going to for sure hit smart glasses, which will replace AR, VR, phones, everything. It's just kind of the way we trend with technology isn't actually to get more complex, is actually to get rid of things. So our phones kind of replaced almost everything. Eventually our glasses could replace all of that. I'm really looking forward to that, because a lot of times I'm sculpting by myself, but my wife Amber's in the room and I could just be hanging out with her and she could be seeing what I'm sculpting too. So I'm looking forward to that, just being able to, or say I'm like here sculpting and you could just see it right through the screen. I think will be amazing. So I definitely think that's where we're headed with all of that. It's just a matter of time and just being patient and just working and all of us kind of being willing to invest in all this kind of not so great virtual reality gear to hope that eventually it helps the companies get there.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And how, Joy, did they find you? What's the best? I know you're big on Twitter. There's some great videos of you sculpting in VR there. Can you tell us about where people can find your things?
Yeah, for sure. My website is joy.lol, joy.lol. And then you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at John Orion Young, JohnOrionYoung.
Fantastic, Joy. Well, look, it's been a pleasure to catch up.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Today. And
pleasure for me too.
It's a real interesting story you have, and wish you all the best, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.